Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. Currently shaking as I type this out. So, if any details are missing, please let me know and I will add them in the upcoming updates. Cecilia, female 24, and I, female 23, were like best friends since the very beginning. We never had any sort of sibling rivalry, any sort of weird tension between us, even though there were very obvious differences between us, and the differences were evident since the very beginning. Cecilia was the nerdy kind, and as for me, I was the fashionista, not so much into studies, but into arts, crafts, and other activities. Unfortunately, that was the case in the matters of looks, too, important for context. We both looked the perfect stereotypes for our personalities. I looked like the girly girl, and Cecilia, well, she looked like the nerd. That's what people always said about her, but in my eyes, she was the most beautiful girl alive. She has the prettiest hair, cutest nose, and the loveliest eyes. I knew how much the comparison weighed on her. I'd be lying if I said that being constantly seen as the dumb bimbo simply because of my fashion sense didn't weigh on me, too. But for Cecilia, her insecurities were on another level, and I tried to help her with them to the best of my abilities, but I guess, after all, that wasn't enough. And by the time I found it out, it was too late. But for the most part, except for this situation, Cecilia was as normal as she could be. She met her now husband, my brother in law Alexio, during the junior year of high school, and they had the cutest relationship. I was so happy for them, and even happier the day I found out that they got into the same college as them. They happily let me into their lives with open arms, and I was so happy. It was like, even with my family being so far away, having them around me made me feel like I had someone. I had a family which I could call my own. Alexio, too, became like my elder brother. He accepted me with open arms even when he didn't really need to, and has protected numerous times from dangerous situations and from taking stupid decisions. You all know how college can get. I still remember when I first introduced Lennox to him. He did this whole interrogation of him jokingly, of course, and it made me feel so lucky and protected because I knew I had him to protect me and my sister both. So Lennox, my now husband, was added to the picture, and he just didn't come alone. He came like a package deal with his older brother, who Alexio immediately clicked with. Hell, it was so obvious that even though Alexio met Simon, my brother in law, quite later than Lennox, they hit it off on a new level. So we became like a small family who'd be there for each other all the time. So things continued this way when it was almost the end of first year of college for me. I still vividly remember that day. Cecilia had this panicked look on her face as she sat me down and told me that she had something very important to tell me. And although I was expecting something bad, she had, in fact, dropped the best news she ever could on me. She was pregnant. I was so happy, and even remember the way Alexio had cried the moment he found out. We celebrated the good news so much, but even during this time, never in a million years would I be able to tell that there was a dark secret behind her pregnancy. Well, my sister gave birth to my first nephew, and they named him after my brother in law. That is how close Alexio and Simon had become. Cecilia was able to continue college after taking a break for a semester. She was happy, and so was I. Everything was good, really very good. Well, eventually, one after the other, we all graduate and start living adult lives. Around this time, Cecilia falls pregnant again, and this time quite a few suspicions raise on my mind because both Cecilia and Alexio seem like the people to have family planning, and her pregnancies both times seem unplanned. Well, I just chalk it up to overthinking and let it go, celebrating the birth of my niece. That is how things had been going. Cecilia became a stay-at-home mom while Alexio worked in a field which enables him to earn really well. Simon, too, at this point has gotten in and out of a couple of relationships. Nothing too serious, and honestly, it makes sense because he is the type to casually date. So eventually, Lennox and I get engaged, and I make my sister my maid of honor, and Lennox makes Simon his best man. Alexio is very understanding of this because he's still in the wedding party. God bless his heart for not creating a scene. Well, we began wedding planning and everything went well. All our families were involved, and I was so happy about it all. It was like within a blink of an eye, my wedding day came because of how much fun and ease the planning was because of these amazing people. But man, I wish I knew it was all going to be set ablaze soon. Well, the day of the wedding comes, and all is good. Everything goes smoothly. Everyone is happy and having fun. It's going just as expected. Everyone is here to celebrate our love, and they're doing that. What could go wrong, right? Nah, things were about to go wrong, and that too very soon. So the wedding is over, and we've held the wedding reception at my husband's parents' villa. Our wedding had a small number of guests, so it was easy to fit everyone in at the villa because the point of our reception was to go crazy on the booze and amazing food, to just let go of all the wedding stress. And I guess Cecilia took this moment to let go of some other stress too, lol. The night was going great. We had some karaoke, good food, drinks, and everything. Everyone was taking turns to sing, and by the time it was Cecilia's turn, she was barely able to stand. We asked her if she wanted to sit. She declined and even pushed one of our cousins away. Thinking that this would be a perfect wedding memory, I whip out my phone to record Cecilia drunkenly singing, and oh boy, it all went downhill so fast. There was no song. Cecilia began a sloppy speech talking about our college days, me and Lennox and stuff. It was all funny and cute, but that didn't last for long because soon after, she began talking about her, Alexio, and Simon. She began describing Simon in a very weird way, almost sexual like. I looked at Simon, who looked like all the color had been drained out of his face, and Alexio, who seemed as confused as we were, and then she dropped it. After her long shenanigan about Simon, she confessed that she had her first child with him. It didn't take her too long to then confess that her second child belonged to Simon too. The room fell silent and full of gasps. My heart fell in my stomach. It was like I had just gone blank for a second, and what I saw next was the scene of Alexio and Simon getting into a fistfight. I immediately call the cops, as both Alexio and Simon push everyone away who tries to get in the middle. Here's the deal, though. As soon as I return, informing everyone that I have called the cops, not just Alexio and Simon, but Lennox and his entire family blow up at me. I tell them straight, I am not going to let bloodshed happen, at least at my wedding, so if anyone is not happy, they can just leave. Thankfully, just as Simon was about to, the cops show up and take account of the situation. This is where I'm at currently. Both Alexio and Simon are at the police station as I'm being berated by my husband's and my own family. What should I do here? Was I the a-hole? After receiving a lot of shit from my sister through voicemails, I sat down with my husband, who has been avoiding me the entire day, and put it straight to him. If the cops ask me to act as evidence, or if either party does, wanting to press charges, I will do so. I even showed him this post, and Lennox just broke down crying. I just held him, and he started talking about his disappointment in both my sister and Simon, how they have practically ruined everything, his reputation and everything. He began talking about how the field he works in has a lot to do with appearances and the fact that some of his biggest clients were present there. It made a huge impact, and although he knew calling the cops was the right thing to do, at that point, he was just too scared of everything. Now, the job that he has is his family business that he has taken over. His parents have invited the both of us over to talk. That is when I'll update you all next. As for my family, I haven't heard anything from them either. I guess they're processing everything as well. Hi, everyone. I met up with my husband's family today and was surprised to see the same clients who my husband was talking about. Apparently, they were here to give grievances about the situation, and honestly, they were much kinder and understanding than my husband expressed. And honestly, it makes sense. Why? Because to me, they seem intimidating too. My husband apologized from his side too, and I think everything is good between the two parties now. They soon left, and we began talking with my in laws, who came forward to apologize on behalf of Simon, telling me that even though they are fully aware of Simon's irresponsible behavior, they were ready to take full responsibility for the kids. I guess currently they're trying to talk with Alexio and Cecilia to come to a mutual agreement. I haven't been in contact with either of them as of yet. So, whenever there's a conclusion to this mess of a situation, I will be posting a final update. Update 3. It's been a month since everything happened, and I wanted to update you all on it. Well, for starters, Simon and Cecilia both decided to move out and are now living in some run-down, trashy apartment. As for the case, Alexio and Simon both have decided to not pursue any charges under the pretext that neither party will try to mess with the other. Simon and Cecilia both have lost a major chunk of their friends and families, leaving them with no option but to just move out. As for Alexio, being the caregiver of the children for so long, he's decided to take full custody of the kids. They're still mine regardless of blood, he says, truly an angel sent from heaven. He's also started therapy for himself and said he will eventually start seeing other people soon. This situation has truly left me speechless. It's like the wonderful Cecilia I once knew just faded away, never to be found again. So has the funny, humorous Simon, who seems to have no remorse for what he has done. Hopefully, a taste of karma teaches them what they have truly lost. NTA, Cecilia seems like a wreck. Thank God she showed her true colors before she had another child with Alexio. NTA, you did the right thing. I feel sorry for you. Alexio and Lennox, who had to face the outcome of the horrible decisions of those two horrible human beings. I truly hope only good things come your way. In January, my sister, Jan, 28, had her car break down and had to be scrapped. My sister works an hour's drive away from her apartment, and there are no public transit options to get her to and from work. She was denied a car loan for bad credit, along with not being able to afford to put any money down, and things were looking pretty dire. I'm the only person in the family with good enough credit to get a decent car loan, so my parents talked me into taking the loan out and registering the car under my name. The deal was that Jan would give me the money to pay everything, insurance, monthly payments, etc. And when the car was paid off, I would transfer the title to my sister. This has been the biggest headache. Jan has gone months without paying me at all, and when she does, she's always short and making excuses. The truth is, I am essentially paying for the car plus insurance for my sister with the promise of reimbursement. My parents have also promised to make up the difference at some point, but I doubt that will happen. It has been 2 months since Jan has paid me, and it is again looking like I will have to pay this month's payment out of my own pocket. I am so sick of this and told Jan last week that I want to be paid in full by that Friday, or I would be taking the car and selling it. She just disingenuously apologized and promised super seriously to have the money to me that week. Friday rolled around and she had ignored all my texts and calls. I had my girlfriend drive me out to her apartment, and I told her to hand the keys to the car over or I would call the police and report it stolen. The car is legally my property, and I'm done paying out of pocket so she can have a car. She told me she had shifts all weekend and that she would be fired if she could not go. I told her I don't care, and then she threatened to sue me. In the end, I got the car and listed it over the weekend. Jan lost her job last night for not showing 3 days in a row. The fact my parents or some other person could not drive her to work seems to escape her, as she and my parents have branded me the biggest a-hole on the planet. NTA, driving an hour each way for work, costs a lot of money, no matter how fuel efficient the car is. If, after 6 months, your sister couldn't make this pay, perhaps she either needed to move closer to work or find a job closer to home. In any case, it wasn't up to you to subsidize her attempt. And if you took the car back Friday and she didn't get your parents to pay you something that night, well, it sounds like maybe they weren't as upset about this as they claim. NTA, and oh boy, let us just say I know from bitter experience that you absolutely did the right thing. Do not let anyone try to convince you otherwise. Also, going forward, do not let yourself be talked into any similar arrangements without a legal document being drawn up between you and the person paying you. NTA, listen, I feel for your sister. We've all had bad financial breaks. However, at some point, you got to get your shit together and grow up. She still hasn't gotten that grow up part yet. If she wanted to, she'd have found a way to get to work. She didn't because she made the choice not to go in 3 days in a row. Not your fault. You have every legal right to your property. It's your name, and unfortunately, you're in the hook financially for it. She defaulted on her end of the deal, so it's not your responsibility to be understanding. The fact that she gave zero about you having to pick up her slack is enough to know that you did the right thing for you. NTA. I was flying out to see some friends a few days ago, and the typical parent and child are separated scenario happened. I was sat next to the son, who seemed to be about 5, 6-ish, while the father was sat a few rows behind us. At first, they asked me to switch seats. And you know what? I give them the benefit of the doubt. I've had problems with not getting the seat I paid for before, too, so I knew it wasn't necessarily their fault that they were separated. However, I paid extra for a legroom seat, so I wasn't very willing to give it up. The father asked around and tried to arrange something with other passengers. However, no one, he asked, was willing to go through the hassle of moving, and eventually he was told to sit down. Well, as soon as we started moving, I knew it was going to be one hell of a plane ride. The son seemed to be nervous, and he started screaming during the takeoff. Not too blood-curdling, just a regular child scream. He wasn't any better during the flight. He was either sobbing, which me and the other person seated next to him tried to resolve, looking a bit too much at my screen, or eating like a slob. I know he's a child, so I still wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but even children at that age are usually better behaved. The best parts of the flight were whenever he went to sit on his father's lap for a bit, which wasn't much, as the flight attendants didn't like that. After 7 hours of this, the father came to take his son and asked, "Did you make friends with your neighbors?" To which the boy said yes. The father laughed and said, "Kids, am I right? Were you able to tolerate him?" And this question was a bit too much for sleep-deprived me. So I calmly told the father the things I mentioned earlier. Well, he wasn't glad with those words. He told me that if I knew that I was going to have trouble with sitting next to an unaccompanied kid for so long, I should have just moved. Well, this turned into a big argument, and eventually we both just stormed off. Not a single person I know in real life is on my side, so AITA? I mean, you're not an a-hole for not wanting to give up the legroom seat you paid for, sure, but why TA for not taking your lumps with the annoying kid? This is very have your cake and eat it too. You did the admittedly fairly understandable self-serving thing, but you also couldn't at least admit the flight would probably have been more pleasant for everyone involved, even you, if you'd let the dad take care of his kid. Come on, man. LOL. You got poetic justice. You could have at least taken it on the chin. YTA, only 'cause you were complaining about it. You got your legroom, but at what cost? The cost of dealing with a child, that is what. So yeah, I hope you at least were able to enjoy that, 'cause Bet the rest sucked. But yeah, you chose to stay there. The father apparently tried to find work around to you, not wanting to switch, but others did not either. So you get the consequences. Because if you thought for a single moment that someone else who had nothing to gain in switching seats while you gained a seat away from a child would switch before you did, then, well, ha. But yeah, most little 5 to 6 year olds are obvious little demons who know little morals, are curious to a fault, and without the watchful eye of their parent, tend to see what they get away with. So yeah, thinking for a moment, staying next to one was a good idea. Well, lesson learned. NTA. He would have easily found someone if he agreed to give up the extra legroom seat.